Up in the second round of the Norway test, we had a draw in the game between Gukesh and wesleyso. So we had an armageddon to decide the guy who take the 1.5 points. Okay, wesleyso open with e4, e5. Now, instead of the normal Italian or normal Spanish, he goes for knight c3, knight f6 and g3. He played this scheme. Against knight c3, there are differences between knight f6 or knight c6. Some lines are similar, but I used to employ knight c6, but with this move, the plan made by Gukesh is not possible. So with knight c6 against this setup, you should place more or less like this. Place both knights, sword castle, a5, and d6 or rook e8. That's the typical. Here rook e8 was slightly better. That's the typical setup with black against this scheme by white. But if you play knight f6 first, you have an extra plan of play c6, d5, as Gukesh did in the game. The only thing that if you want to play knight f6, you should know the move f4 here. It's very, very tricky. 2 years ago, I won a very good game against a FIDE master in Cuba. Here, black should play d5, pawn takes, knight f3, and this is the game that I won in Cuba, who was very good. I played very, very accurate, just making one inaccuracy in a very hard game. Before e3, then I take here and white sacrifice a pawn. That's why you should learn well the line, because it's very tricky. Queen d3, bishop b2, c5, c4, knight c6. And that's the only inaccuracy that I made in the game. Here queen b6 was stronger, but queen c7 is putting many troubles in white position. So d3, then I take, and here I won a very, very good game. So okay, let's analyze the game of wesleyso and Gukesh. Okay, Gukesh play knight f6, g3 by wesleyso, and now Gukesh play bishop c5, bishop d2 for castle, knight d2, and instead of the other setup with knight c6, here he came with the idea of the machine with c6. The plan is, of course, break d5 and take the control of the center, sword castle, d5, and now white cannot play slowly as with d3 with the normal plan, because here just takes, and this position is very good for black, because it's symmetrical, but the bishop is misplaced on g2. I won another interesting game in a very similar position in the last summer, but the key is that the bishop is misplaced here on g2. That's why white cannot play as he used to play this type of position with d3, so he should take on d5 and play d4. He takes, and d4, takes, reaching an isolated pawn position, where black needs to play with energy, because if black plays passive and making a slowly move, white is going to be better with the black isolated pawn. Okay, one second, I'm going to move a little bit the camera. Here, perfect. Okay, let's continue. So black should play active, bishop g4, very good move by Gukesh. And now the main move of the position is queen d3. That's the majority of the games are with queen d3, bishop d4, queen d4, knight c6, queen c5, d4, h3 by white, bishop e6, takes, and queen c8, and the position is more or less equal. Knight f6, knight f3 here have not so much sense, just knight c6 and normal development. But wesleyso tried knight d2, similar like knight f3, but the knight is slightly better on e2, because can go to f4 one day, going for the d5 pawn. And here Gukesh play an inaccurate move, knight c6. The black plan, the whiteness move, sorry, is h3, and later knight f4 and attack or h3, bishop d5, trying to put pressure into the d5 pawn. That's why black should play queen d7, very good prophylactical move against h3. And yes, it's so clear this move. You are just developing a piece and stopping g3, because this bishop here is very important, pin this knight. Added to that, you are leaving the pin on g5, because if white plays bishop g5, now the knight is unpinned, and we can play knight e4 here. as with the queen and d8 we cannot play that. Takes, and okay, black is fine here. Bishop b3 was slightly better instead of bishop g5. That's the best move. And here we can take knight c6 and make a normal development. Okay, here white have this weakness pawn and black have this weakness pawn. So the position is more or less equal. But knight c6 is an accuracy because after h3, I prefer here bishop e6 instead of bishop b5 play by Gukesh, because at least the bishop on e6 is defending the pawn on g5. But okay, it's not huge difference because okay, on f5 you can argue that it's attacking c2, which is true. But okay, bishop e6 for example, now bishop g5 as in the game, h6 and entering this position with the pawn on d5 more or less defended. This pawn is hanging too one day, so black can more or less hold the position. And if knight f4, queen d7. But after bishop g5 played by Gukesh, not a very good move of wesleyso. Pinning this knight, putting pressure into the d5 pawn. When our opponent have a isolated pawn, we should try to put pressure and take the pawn. Bishop g5. Here, Gukesh sacrificed the pawn with bishop e7. Okay, black cannot defend the d5 pawn, so he should sacrifice, but there is a more active way to sacrifice the d5 pawn, who is with h6. And after bishop takes, queen takes, the idea is that we are forcing white to take with the queen, which is not the most active move. We want to take, of course, with the knight. But here we have queen b2, and the difference between take with the queen on b2 or take with the bishop on b2 is that after rook b1, this pawn and these pawns are hanging. But if we take with the bishop on b2, rook b1, and the b7 pawn is going to fall. So that's better to take the b2 pawn with the queen than with the bishop in this type of positions. So for that reason, knight d5 doesn't work, bishop d5 doesn't work too, because they are rook d8 pinning the bishop. So white should take the pawn with the queen, and after bishop b6, black is active, because white have an extra pawn, but black have the bishop pair and very active bishops. The queen is attacking there, the rooks are coming to the center. So I think that black have good counterplay here. White is slightly better because the pawn, but black have very good counterplay. But instead of that, Gukesh play bishop b7 with the more or less the same idea of give the pawn on d5 but take the bishop pair and take on b2. The problem is that after bishop takes, knight takes, bishop b2, now rook b1, and we cannot play queen takes c2 or queen takes a2 as in the other line. Here the bishop is completely worse piece on b2 than the queen, because we cannot take on c2 or on e2. So the bishop should return, and now after rook b7, white is better because have an extra pawn, and now the rook is active compared with the other position. And the b2 pawn is now no more a weakness because there is no a pawn there, and this is a pass pawn. So white is close to be completely winning. Here was stronger for black, rook b8, trading the most active white piece. It's okay, the b7 rook is very active, and the a8 rook no, so rook b8 was a smart move. Queen c8, rook b5, bishop d7, rook c5, queen e8. Black have no active plans. Rook e1, rook d8. And here, very careless move of wesleyso, who has a completely winning position. It's not only the extra pawn, but the d5 knight is very strong, the rook, this bishop, the queen is in the same open file than the rook, who is dangerous too. But here, wesleyso played a careless move, not so typical in the games of wesleyso, because he played f4 here, opening his king and opening all the dark squares, and it's a strange move to play by wesleyso. Wesleyso here had like 4 or 5 minutes, and Gukesh just won. So very strange move by wesleyso, who is a so solid player. Here knight f4, just opening the rook, activating all the pieces. Now knight e3 is coming, so this was a better idea. So f4, not the best move by wesleyso, because after bishop d6, now the only move to maintain the advantage for black is rook takes c6, this very difficult line, bishop c6, knight d4, win here. White is still being completely winning, but he should play very accurate. Knight d4, knight c6, knight f6. Looks like white is winning the queen, but black take back the queen. Rook takes, and finally taking here. Was important to don't take, because here queen g4 intermezzo, and now the queen is not hanging because it's in a white square, light square. So that's why it's very important to play king h8 first, bishop take, bishop c5, king g2, rook takes, and rook d7. And here white is winning because okay, his king is closer to the center. This king has more troubles to be active. This is a pass pawn. The rook is more active. The bishop is going to be on c4 and on d5, and upon on c4 the rook should be defending this pawn, the king should be defending this pawn, and during this time white can advance this pawns, advance the other one, bring the king to the center, and white have a winning endgame. But of course f4 is still winning, but it's not easy to find all the line. And again wesleyso failed with knight f6. He lost the completely winning advantage in just 2 moves with f4 and with knight f6. G takes, queen d6, queen e3, king e2, and here Gukesh had less than, he had more or less 1 minute in the clock, and he needs to make just more 20 moves, so he should play fast. Well, data, the increment is going to be of just 1 second, but before the increment he needs just more 20 moves, so he should play fast. But here, instead of play the normal moves, he played bishop takes h3, who doesn't work. The easy tactic here, the easiest tactic was just bishop e6, attacking the queen, and after queen c6, rook c8, and you cannot defend the c5 rook. So rook c3, very hard move to hold with white, because if you don't play rook c3, then rook takes c5 or queen c5 is coming and black is winning. So rook c3, very good move to maintain the game. Queen d2, again attacking the rook, so finally black is taking 1 rook, but white can find counterplay with f5 and all of this line, but black is still being slightly better in this endgame. But bishop e6 is a move who puts so much troubles for white. And rook f8 is another interesting move, just activating the last piece. Rook c6, bishop c6, queen c6, and rook e6. And this knight is pinned, and it's going to be difficult to leave the pin. So with this 2 moves, Gukesh could have a good position. Instead of that, he get crazy, and I don't know what he calculates, but and he played bishop takes a3, attacking the queen, but after queen takes, bishop takes, king takes. I don't know what Gukesh missed here, I don't really know. Because after rook d2, king f1, and rook e8, rook c3, and black is white is completely winning, so Gukesh resign here. I don't know what move he missed, if he missed king f1 or rook c3, I don't know. But okay, here just Gukesh have one chance to hold the game and to play for win, but he missed the option with a bad calculation and he lost the game. But okay, he deserved the loss after this inaccurate move knight c6, allowing white to be active, and later he cannot find the good counterplay with h6. So this was a fast game in this Armageddon, just 27 moves. In the second round, the other classic Firuza won takes the only victory in a classical game of the day, and the other game between Carlsen and Keimer ended in a draw, and Carlsen won the Armageddon. For this round, a part of the other 2 games of the women's session that I analyzed, I'm going to share the victory of Firuza too, so follow me to what happened in the game.